Hey guys, I'm Riley Otten, and in today's video I will be teaching you how to build diamond calves. Of all the tier list videos I've made so far, you will not want to miss this one because there is new studies that have come out and we can now revolutionize calf training. I always use the disclaimer, I am not a doctor, but I am going to college, getting an education in fitness. I am currently getting certified to be a personal trainer, and I am a competitive bodybuilder, so I must know at least a thing or two, right? At least something. So let's start off with the anatomy of the calf. Now, the calf's anatomy is relatively simple. It's primarily just two heads. The bigger head on the outside of your calf is called the gastrocnemius. For this video, I'll just be calling it the gastroc. And then the smaller head on the inside of your calf that runs underneath your gastroc is your soleus. For calf training, there's no reason to isolate each individual head if it's even possible, most likely not. But later studies in this video, I will talk about the anatomy of the calf, so I figured I'd run over it quick in the beginning of the video. Although this tier list is shorter, we have the same tiers as ever. At the top, we have hypertrophy mastermind, then A tier, B tier, C tier, and all the way at the bottom, we have get out. Our first exercise is the standing barbell calf raise. And although this movement is a classic, it is bodybuilding tradition, this is far from optimal in any way. I feel like a lot of gym goers' brains have been wired, including mine, to think for the calf raise, oh, it's the contraction, when we know the most hypertrophic part of the movement is the stretch. Hypertrophic meaning it builds the most muscle. And I go into my training going, okay, I need to stretch the biceps, I need to stretch the lats when I'm training, but for some reason the calf, my mind automatically goes to, we need to contract it, we need to get the squeeze. But that is completely false, and as for the standing barbell calf raise, there is no stretch, because your foot goes to flat and then to up into the contracted position. There is no platform for your heel to sink down to get a stretch in the calf. Also, if you're going heavy, because the calves are pretty resilient muscles, the weight is on your back and it can cause a whole lot of systemic fatigue doing like calf raises with 405 pounds on your back. You're just gonna feel tired, you're gonna feel more sore all around, not as much power for a movement that really shouldn't cause any systemic fatigue at all. You could put your toes on like a 45-pound plate or something to just bring yourself up, and that would make this movement better because there's a stretch, but also now you have the risk of falling off the plate and then severely injuring yourself, and that is no bueno, that is not good. So the standing barbell calf raise is immediately going in the get out tier for me. There is no place for this movement in your calf training. Next up is the standing calf raise machine. Before I rank this exercise, let's discuss the study that I mentioned earlier in the video. Recently, a case study has been done where they got a bunch of untrained individuals and they trained one calf muscle in the seated position, in the bent knee position, and the other calf in the straight leg position. To put this into perspective, a straight leg movement would be like the calf raise on the leg press or the standing calf raise. And the bent knee position would be like the seated calf raise machine or just putting a plate on your knees, sitting on a bench and doing calf raises. Now, although both heads of the calf are important, the gastroc is the bigger muscle. In the case study, the person that did the straight leg raise saw 15% more muscle growth in the gastroc. 15% is not a single digit. 15% is visibly noticeable over a period of time. But everyone that likes the calf raise will have an excuse, but here is why there is no excuse to be doing any bent leg calf raise. The gastroc, the bigger muscle, grew 15% more. Cool. The soleus saw the same amount of growth. You could make the argument, oh, what about sake of variation? The straight leg movement goes stale, I need to switch to another variation. There is plenty of straight leg calf raise movements that you could switch through where you should never need a bent leg raise. So this makes the seated calf raise by literature irrelevant. Now, I saw Dr. Mike Israetel from Renaissance Periodization talking about this case study on his channel. He goes a lot more sciencey. I am giving it to you at a much more digestible level than he discusses it. But I will link his video in the description. If you are more interested in that specific case study, go give his video a watch. It is fantastic. How does that case study affect the standing calf raise machine? The answer is very well. Your toes are on the platform, which means you get a very deep stretch, the good part, the hypertrophic stretch, and you also get all the benefits of the straight leg raise movement. The only counter argument I have to the straight leg calf raise would be the fact that the weight is still on your shoulders, which can build up systemic fatigue through your leg days. And especially if you're already doing barbell squats, you already got a lot of systemic fatigue. You do not need that extra fatigue. And I would say that it is better to position the weight in your straight-legged movement somewhere around your hips. I will be putting the straight-legged calf raise in the A tier, but that does not mean that it won't build just as much muscle as the exercises in the hypertrophy mastermind tier. It'll build just as much muscle. I just think the fatigue is going to be more for equal results to the movements in hypertrophy mastermind. Next up, we got the seated calf raise. Now, I love the seated calf raise. Most of my training, I did the seated calf raise. But we have seen the studies, and now that you understand the anatomy of the calf and the research, this is an irrelevant movement, and because of that, the only place it belongs is get out. Now, I understand there's a level of gym bro logic saying, oh, you know, don't listen to the research, do what's effective, do what gets you bigger muscles. And to a sense, I think the gym bro logic can be pretty badass. But the thing is, I did the seated calf raise for a year, and then I went to the leg press calf raise, and in about 3 months' time, I saw the same amount of growth in my calves in those 3 months than I did the whole year prior in the seated calf raise. Now, that doesn't all have to do with that 15% margin. I also believe for me it is easier to get the deeper stretch on the leg press calf raise over the seated calf raise. That is my personal preference, but it gave me marginally better muscle growth just by switching over that one movement. That is why the calf raise is in get out. Next up, we got the donkey calf raise. The donkey calf raise is traditionally done with your gym partner sitting on your rump while you are bent over on a bench doing the calf raise. Now, if your homeboy's sitting on your back and you get erect, that might be a little embarrassing, so that may be a downside to this movement. But if your training partner is a female, I mean, shit, you know, it might not be such a downside, it might be a plus. There is also a donkey calf raise machine, but I've never seen it in person. I've seen pictures of it, I've seen people use it online. I've never seen it in person, and I'm not even convinced that that machine actually exists. But let's see. The donkey calf raise with your toes on the plate, the weight is loaded by your hips, so there's not a lot of systemic fatigue. You get the deep stretch, the hypertrophic part of the movement, and it is a straight-legged calf movement which shows better growth. That makes the donkey calf raise almost unbeatable with the position that the weight is loaded, the stretch, and the straight leg movement. Donkey calf raise, this is for the machine and the person on your back, is hypertrophy mastermind tier. Next up is the leg press calf raise. You're sitting in the leg press, so the weight is loaded from your toes, pushing the weight down, which means the weight isn't on your torso, so the systemic fatigue is going to be lower. Your legs are straight in this movement, meaning you will see the additional muscle growth, and it has a very deep stretch. I would make the argument that the leg press calf raise is even better than the donkey calf raise. First, because it's more accessible. You don't need a training partner. What if you're training alone? You don't have a training partner. You're not going to go ask a stranger to sit on your back. And most gyms don't have a donkey calf raise machine, so that movement isn't as accessible to most people, where almost every gym has a leg press. So this movement has the 3 perks that the donkey calf raise has, except it's more accessible, which makes the leg press calf raise the best calf movement you can do by literature. And if we're not going to look at the literature and just bring personal bias into it, I've made fantastic gains with this movement, where I can say myself that I do believe this is the best movement. Hypertrophy mastermind tier. And last but not least, I hate to have to discuss this, I know this is a touchy topic. There's been an epidemic in commercial gyms around the world right now, where this machine called the calf extension keeps appearing. It's so funny because it seems like all these gyms are getting it, and in every gym, no one is using it. Is this movement a hidden gem that we don't know about? No, it's a bullshit movement. Yes, the weight is loaded at your hips. I like that. Your legs are straight in the movement. I like that. The stretch is... It's hard to get a good stretch on this movement, mostly because of how it's positioned and how you have to get in the squat position and push yourself up. You kind of need to drive through your heels to get up out of it, and that makes it really hard to get in a stretched position. So I find that pushing up movement in general is the biggest problem with this machine because it hurts my knees really bad, and I'd say I have pretty strong knees. This movement, you would see better progress than the seated calf raise and the standing barbell calf raise. That is true. But I do feel how uncomfortable it is on the joints and how hard it is to get positioned in it for a deep stretch. I do think that brings it down a couple notches. For that reason, I will be putting the calf extension machine in the C tier. But guys, that is my calf extension tier list. Comment down below what you think about the movement. Did I do good? Did I do bad? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know. I respond to every comment. I appreciate every single comment. If you enjoyed the video, hi, I'm Riley Ott. Like and subscribe. I've been posting content as much as possible, and I'm getting better at the getting in front of the camera thing and the editing thing, so these videos are only getting better by each video. My platform before YouTube was Instagram, where I do cool photo shoots and I post bodybuilding news, so if that is something that interests you, I would really appreciate a follow over there. I'm also much more active over there. I post on my story every day, so you'll get more content from me. If you made it this far in the video today, I hope you hit a PR. I know you got it in you, and I will catch you in the next video. Peace.